The title of the show, Daily Pictures, didn't really come until the end of the exhibition. And it was more guided by the artworks themselves, and it was more guided by the artists themselves. So I began kind of with this idea of 9 artists and slowly sort of building that group and just sort of seeing the different kinds of conversations the artists would have with each other. This idea of daily, to me, has multiple levels of meaning. Daily can both mean something very kind of mundane. I really want to celebrate this idea of sort of, Kevin Weil has like this wonderful kind of trance-like video of a microwave sort of spinning around. Or Mari Eastman kind of takes the lyrics of a pop song, a 1964 pop song by the Supremes. So there's this idea of the mundane and the everyday, which is a concept which I think is one reading of daily. But I also wanted to talk about the artist's practices. And I like this idea that practice means something that you do every day. Practice is something that you keep on moving towards and going towards, sometimes without an end goal in mind. Sometimes it's more about the process and about the discovery. There's 2 paintings in the show that David Diao did about Barnett Newman, who is sort of a hero for Diao. He's sort of speaking through Barnett Newman's great works, but also sort of showing what it's like to be an artist, and it ends up being a very poignant work. David once shared a story that he found out that every day when Barnett Newman finished painting, he would meticulously clean his brushes for an hour. And it was this idea of a respect for the craft, a kind of idea that you do it today, you do it tomorrow. I thought that was so beautiful, this idea of returning to it every day. So there's daily on that sense. And pictures is also a similarly kind of broad word in the sense that pictures colloquially can refer to a painting, a film, a photograph, or even just like, let me take a picture of something. And I kind of liked how it operated on those different levels. I think this idea of a picture, and it kind of takes the landscape to me, if you think of a landscape as like a macro view and everything that kind of moves in front of it, that is an idea, that kind of observation, not looking at a specific thing, but kind of like the little everyday nature of what might happen. And so there's this idea of kind of artists as people who observe the world, but artists as people who kind of come together in interesting ways, who kind of share and think. So there are kind of a few funny interpersonal relationships between these artists. I think it adds a different, perhaps a more kind of personal element to the show. Margaret Lee, to me, they're very simple, rectangular, circular, but then they have all these indentations, and then you have all these kinds of cutoffs and these glossy parts, and then you start to realize here's something that is so simple, but it is obviously something that someone has spent a lot of time on. These works are very kind of, you could say they're hermetic, but they're also really kind of, in a way, I feel like the works are very much for herself, in a way that they have this meditative process about them. She takes cast off foam pieces and sort of like sands them, covers them in fiberglass. It's a very, very time-intensive process. Gaylen Gerber, his supports and his backdrops. And in this exhibition, there are 4 supports. And he makes those supports by sort of sourcing either artifacts or works of art or objects and painting over them. And I think there's this idea, there's kind of this misconception that it's an idea of obliteration, or it's an idea of how could you, quote unquote, destroy this art object. But to me, Gaylen's work reads as a sort of appreciation. He's taking these things from the world, artifacts, sometimes even pieces of trash, sometimes things that he finds. He's really kind of just, by painting them over, you actually pay attention to them more in a strange way. You kind of have this newfound appreciation or this mystery for what might lie under these objects. Arnold J. Kemp's paintings, to me, made with aluminum foil and ink, have a barely physical quality to them, because they're pressed into the canvas, and so there's this aspect of they really show the traces of their making. The way that he thinks about masks as a way of performing, as a way of sort of hiding, as a way of thinking about one's kind of identity and moving through the world. To me, the works both have this beauty and this kind of hesitancy behind them. Cici Wu, who I'm really glad to have in this exhibition, have chosen 4 drawings from different, all within the last 4 or 5 years that she's created. And I think the way that she uses the camera, or the way that she thinks about film, the way that she kind of images or takes in surroundings is really kind of beautiful. And so in the 3 drawings she's done on rice paper, they have this translucent, luminescent quality. They're very gentle. But they speak about a difficult time, of course. One of the drawings, as you can see, has this image of a lantern where Hong Kong is pictured. It was made in 2020, sort of in a period of unrest and tumult. And it's a way of thinking about kind of what is the future of a place. And I think that is an interesting work that does it in a sort of gentle and thoughtful kind of way. Between each other, or sort of across different kind of mediums and identities and cultures and things like that. And Daily Pictures, I think, has to do more with the artist's way of working, with the artist's ethos, if you will. I think all 9 of these artists are deeply observational artists, are artists who don't approach art making as a way of making meaning, but more approach art as a process of discovery, kind of letting it stay open, hence this idea of observation first.